The K Jazz Show, Sundays on Kofifi FM 97.2.
This week on The K Jazz Show, we connect with an artist whose journey reads like a masterclass in tenacity, craft, and boundless musical imagination after his inaugural trip to South Africa. Italian bassist, composer, and bandleader Michelangelo Scandroglio joins us to reflect on a meteoric rise, of course, from studying with jazz giants to touring across continents, winning major competitions, and crafting a bold new sound world in his current project, Gently Broken. Michelangelo, welcome to the show, brother.
Hello. How are you doing?
we are grateful that you could join us this Sunday. Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
You began your jazz journey, under the likes of Ares Tovalazzi or Tavolazzi, if I'm calling it correctly, and later studied with giants like Joe Sanders, Miguel Zignon, and Avishai Cohen. Let's look back at those days. What philosophies from those masters, still sit at the core of your sound today?
Sure. I always did my studies were always just classical studied. So I began studying classical music since I was 15 years old. And basically I learned jazz, or I studied jazz just kind of private lesson. I never did a proper school, So for example, I studied 5 years with this Italian bass player called Ares Tavolazzi, who is really famous in our country, was one of the most the greatest jazz musician in the country. And so I studied with him for 5 years, but privately. And then as I told you, I never did a proper school. So I did instead of that, I did for 6 years in a row this jazz international jazz workshop in Siena, which is a city in Italy, and it's called Siena Jazz International Workshop. And I had the opportunity to study with a lot of people. Honestly, I studied for 5 years in a row with Joe Sanders. I studied with Arish Raghavan. I studied with Miguel Zenon, Avishai Cohen, all these guys that nowadays brings jazz to the next step in a way. So I had the opportunity to really spend a lot of time with them, because it's a 2 weeks super intense program. And also was really great because was really great because I had the chance to meet a lot of musicians from my age, And nowadays, actually the 8% of the musician I'm playing with, I met it in those programs, so it was completely insane and great to do it.
Your time with Gabriele Reganti gave you a tone you gave your tone such depth and clarity, if I may put it that way. Let's talk about the classical foundation, that shaped the way you approach improv and possibly ensemble interplay.
Sure. Honestly, the thing that the classical give me the most probably is the way, the approach on studying something, which I use it in every kind of things in my life probably. So starting from literally composition, to studying the instrument, but I don't know, going to the gym or whatever. So classical music is really great because it gives you like the thing to apply to all other things in your life. And so this is really great. But musically speaking, probably for me was really great to understand the importance of the sound and how to create the sound and how it's important like to work on the sound of the instrument, because like especially for bass, when you play pizzicato is way much easier because you just have to literally push the string and sounds come. But with the bow, and when you study classical, is like a pain in the ass to just make one note clear. So that kind of exercise made me reflect nowadays and in the past about the importance of the sound of your instrument, like working so much hard just to get one note clear, So definitely this, talking about like composition or like kind of how much impact me like my compositional process, probably the importance of dynamics, which in jazz sometimes is a bit underrated. But in classical is really the thing,
You know, at just the age of 20, Michelangelo, you were invited to the Beijing Jazz Festival. Let's go back to those days, and
Yeah.
would you say that that was that moment that really put you on the international jazz stage?
I mean, probably. I did this competition, which is called Riga International Jazz Competition, and in that year where I was invited, there was like a jazz-based competition. So that was my first time I had the chance to play kind of outside my country. So I remember I went with my dad. Like was a huge trip because Riga is still in Europe, but it's quite far from Italy. So for me, it was like a big deal and was great. Yes, because I had the chance to, for the first time in my life, to see other players from all around the world, because the competition invited just a bass player from US, bass player from China. So I had a chance really to put me like to see what's going on in the world and to meet new people. So basically, yeah, that I think was the first step that put me like kind of in international landscape and make me understand how much I have to work, honestly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Coffee FM this Sunday, we're spending time with Michelangelo Scandroglio. Of course, he's an Italian bassist currently traveling the world, and he stopped for a moment this Sunday to spend, time with us here on the show, reflecting on his life and times as a jazz musician, a young jazz musician, for today's edition of our brand new feature, The Jazz Circuit. Michelangelo, your album, Eyes of the Whale, which was your debut project, by the way, gathered an all-star lineup, including, Logan Richardson and many others. What artistic vision, informed this project, and how did these collaborations maybe bring your vision to life? Let's go back there.
Yeah, sure. I spent like 5 years in a row doing this international jazz workshop in Siena. So basically, I had the chance, of course, to study with a lot of jazz musicians, but especially jazz musicians that are working in this kind of thing called contemporary jazz or modern jazz, especially this kind of movement that, in the last 20 years, I would say, is coming from New York. So musicians like Ambrose Akinmunsier, Avishai Cohen, or whatever, Aaron Parks. All these guys that really made a new sounds, especially born like in New York, So in those years, I was really focusing on that kind of sounds. I want to kind of pay a tribute to that kind of sound, and because I really like that. And so I tried to wrote an album that kind of had that kind of vibe, but at the same time trying to put something mine,
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I invited Logan, because Logan is one of those that made that music, and for me was like an hero. And I studied with him at those workshops. So the same year I was like, hey, Logan, maybe you want to play my album as a guest or something like that? And he was like, yeah, let's play. So yeah, I made that group, and with that kind of musical vision, which for me is not anymore that kind of vision, but it was 6 years ago. Yeah, I played in that kind of way.
And I want to talk about your brand new vision, which we'll probably get into a bit later in our conversation. But speaking of New York City, you've played from residencies in Lima, to tours in South Korea, and, performances in iconic clubs like Ronnie Scott's. What has been the highlight for you,
The highlight, probably when I played 2 years ago in this place called Jazz Gallery, New York. And I think is probably the best place in the world for jazz for me. It's really a place where things happen and where you can find the sounds of future, basically. And so probably I think that concert was probably my favorite one in the world, because really, it means a lot for me to play in that place, and I hope I will get the chance also in the future, in the near future, to play again there. But of course, other places like Ronnie Scott's are really great. And recently, honestly, I have really good time playing in Melbourne Jazz Festival, which I think is a really, really, really nice festival. And the vibe over there is so cool, and people are really coming to listen and to share this kind of music moment with you, And of course, really had a really good time in South Africa this September when I came. That was a really nice festival, Joy of Jazz.
His name is Michaelangelo, and he's joining us from Oslo this Sunday. And he's joining us on a feature we call the Jazz Circuit as we explore, the different side of jazz, the one, that also speaks to the non-traditional, type of listening. And youth projects, Michelangelo, like Barencia and Cross Identity, those two albums, they show your appetite, I guess, for borderless, genre-defying creation,
Yeah.
What is it about, collaborative experimentation that keeps you so innovative?
Sure. Actually, I had I'm actually still like artist in residency for this festival called Greek Jazz Festival in Italy, and basically every year I have the chance to kind of build a new project, inviting inviting musicians I like from abroad. So with this program, I made such a lot of group because I made a group called Barencia. You mentioned that before, and basically is a group that is mixing like Spanish culture, kind of flamenco thing, with contemporary jazz. And also we have also is a trio, piano trio plus a bailora, a dancer. So basically it's like a show that give you kind of jazz composition, but in the same time is like a proper discussion and a proper show with this dancer. So it's like a 3D kind of thing. And also I had this project called Cross Identity, which was in collaboration actually with the Jazz Gallery of New York City. So I play with guys from US. And then another one was really great is a collaboration with the Jarazom Jazz Festival in South Korea. And then I had the last one was with London Jazz Festival, and we made LVDF, which is a group that I'm now touring a lot, probably the group with I'm playing the most. All those kind of groups reflects I'm really drawn to, to mix culture and to try to mix different musicians from different heritage and create something together new, and trying to not imitate like a sounds, but trying to create a new sounds in a way. So definitely it is.
The project Gently Broken is the latest one from you, and of course it dives into groove, it dives into noise. It's hip hop, it's jazz in every fluid way, in every sense of the word. What emotional world does the project open up for the listeners tuning in for the very first time? I've been spending time with this album, before our conversation, and I've got different avenues that it takes me on. But was this the intention for you?
Actually, it was my first album that has a totally different vibe from the other one, because it was probably, I would say, 80% a production album, in the sense that basically we play a recording session all together, like playing real instrument, but then the most work was after, so the studio after, and production, post-production. So basically, it's like so different from the others, because I try to create like micro world. So basically you can, every kind of track is kind of different from the other one, and brings you like super different landscape in a way. And so I try kind of to create a different world,
For the jazz circuit, this Sunday, we're spending time with Michelangelo Scandroglio. And of course, he's talking about his music and his work with jazz. Of course, we've also been listening to some of this compositions, of course, as we have the conversation with him. And if you've just joined us and you've missed many of, the moments that we've shared, do head to our podcast platforms where we'll be uploading this conversation at the end of the show. Now, let's talk about, your very first visit. You mentioned it earlier on, to South Africa. What artistic sparks, did that trip ignite? What inspired you after you came, you left after the festival and you went home? And maybe let's talk about the possible collaborations that you saw with South African musicians that you'd want to be a part of.
Yeah. Actually, I was super impressed in like the music. I heard a lot of group, honestly. And I really, really like that the festival brings like South African musician with international musician in a way, trying to, to make them collaborate together. And I saw a lot of featuring or all this kind of stuff. And I really, really like that. And I think like South Africa has us talking about jazz as like such a strong identity. And I thought that you guys really, now if I listen like to a project, I can say if it's like a South African jazz musician. So it's crazy like how you can, create your own sound with your nationalities in a way, which I think is the aim of to be like a jazz musician nowadays, is to bring of course we have all our background, jazz background, and we have to study that and we have to pay tribute to all those masters, but at the same time trying to bring your own culture and your own traditional things in the music. And that's what I heard in every show I went of some South African artists. And this is, I think, the aim and what I want as well for me and for my music.
Well, it's truly inspiring, and I'm glad that you kind of took a piece of South Africa with you, when you went back home. And I think it also, it gives us perspective into how the other side lives. And maybe now that you create the music, it'll have South African theme into it, and maybe you have some artists that you want to explore that you'd like to maybe collaborate with on a global scale, I'm tempted to ask you, because for this conversation, you and I have just spoken about jazz and music and travels and all these things that you do. What do you do for fun, Michelangelo? Is there something that you do for fun?
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, I like this because always we are just talking about music. I don't like to talk music. So, for fun, first, I don't stay with musicians, but I hang with other people, that are not playing or like, I'm joking. But I really like films. So I really like old cinema, watching like films. I really like playing video games, actually. I'm like a gamer. Yeah, I have a lot of things.
But as we wrap up, my friend, what's next for Michelangelo?
So, what's next? This is a good question. Now I kind of have some shows with this LVDF project. So we will running like some shows like in 2026. We are gonna record our new album. So my mainly focus is this band, honestly. And I think we will do really great. We're doing really great, and we'll do great. We probably go back to Korea to play, to China, and I don't know. I also proposed to South Africa, so let's see, maybe. And so this is my main focus, and basically, why not? Like I'm like putting down like new music. So probably I'm gonna record my new album like next year, but let's see. I'm writing now. I'm kind of a moment of inspiration, So I'm writing now new music, and I'm probably gonna record this year, like 2026. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to that because I think that's going to be exciting. I think with all of the travels that you did in 2025, you've got so much inspiration from all these different countries.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
true.
we look forward to the melting pot of inspiration becoming, the next Michelangelo project. But I think let's bring it here. Let's close it here, for this. And of course, thank you so much for joining us. And that's how we close off another rich chapter here on the Jazz Circuit with a global journey featuring the extraordinary Michelangelo Scandroglio. From Italy to South Africa, from the Kennedy Center to Johannesburg. Of course, his story reminds us that jazz is a language without borders, continually evolving through curiosity, collaboration, and fearlessness. Of course, thank you so much for traveling with us, Michelangelo.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course, this is our brand new feature, the Jazz Circuit, only on the K Jazz Show.